Hello and welcome to this CNBC Africa special broadcast. I'm Chris Bishop. Now, at a time when global economies are reeling from the impact of COVID-19, the opportunities are wide open to recalibrate partnerships, to collaborate and to learn from each other to mutual benefit. To this end, the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry and African Business News, the parent company of CNBC Africa, have recently concluded a Memorandum of Understanding to host the first virtual India-Africa Summit 2020. Now, the summit is aimed at looking at bilateral economic and business opportunities between the countries in sub-Saharan Africa and India. And the event is scheduled from the 4th to the 6th of November. Now, joining me to discuss this and what it all means are Rajiv Podar, and also we've got Roberta Naika. She's the CEO of ABN, and also we have Sam Bembe, who is a director and shareholder of ABN. If I could start off with you, Roberta, what exactly does this partnership mean?
Thank you very much, Chris, and hello to the viewers and to the fellow panelists. Well, we'd actually hosted our very first event with Mr. Podar, which was the IBLF event in 2008. And as you know, India has been a historic partner to all African economies. And that relationship has always been a very strong one, not just for South Africa, but for all countries in sub-Saharan Africa. So there's also the fact that the largest population of Indians outside of India today are resident in South Africa, which essentially means that there's this very strong affinity between India and African businesses. And because of this significant similarities between the countries, there's a lot of mutual learning opportunities which shouldn't be ignored. So after this very first event in 2008, which was very successful, that started the conversation between us. And when Mr. Podar took over as the president of the IMC, in view of this existing relationship between us, we once again engaged to try to find these mutual opportunities. And recently, given the impediments caused by the pandemic, we felt that our media platforms could provide a platform for this much needed dialogue, particularly on sharing experiences and evaluating future opportunities. So for us, this partnership with the IMC could not have come at a better time. We believe that the governments and businesses need to work closely together to build this mutual interdependence. And the summit is going to be this platform that's going to be used to promote this bilateral collaborations between the countries in these in certain key focus areas. So essentially what it means for us is that it's going to be an initiative that is positioned to transform the development landscape of both these economies.
Okay, if I come now to Mr. Rajiv Podar, the president of the IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Just give us a little bit more about the vision and mission of the IMC.
So IMC is the Chamber of Commerce was formed in 1907. We had the honor of having Mahatma Gandhi as an honorary member, the only chamber in India to have had this honor. We have 5,000 direct members, and we have 150 trade associations affiliated to us. Through this, we represent and advocate the interests of 400,000 businesses across the industry of various sectors. The theme of this year is reboot, reform, and research. So we reboot the business, reform the policies, and research the economy. It's very important in this pandemic situation.
Thank you. If I come now to you, Sam Bembe, non-executive director of the ABN Group, what do you think the prospects are for international trade right now in the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thank you very much, Chris, and thanks to both my fellow panelists. So international trade has suffered greatly around the pandemic. It's one area that has had the most severe impact. But I think the crisis of over many years have indicated to us that revival of economies will also be led by the international trade. So we're quite very bullish about what has to happen. So the first thing is the COVID-19 impact has led to review of trade policies. So all countries now have to review their trade policies because the one area that was exposed was the inefficiency of the trade policies in terms of carrying out during a crisis period. So all those are now in review, and we're hoping that there will be a better match of the production side and the consumption sides of the global economy. So very, very promising there. And I think there's no country that is being left behind here. All economies are actually participating in various fora to ensure that there's a thorough debate on the trade. The second one is just the transparency around the trade policy. In the past, there were a cohort of people who were managing trade policies, but I think now there's an opportunity, and thanks to the information technology that has advanced debates and discussions. So we'll see much better transparency, which leads to better sharing of the proceeds and the benefits of trade policies. And then the last one is really the review and the re-establishment of effective supply chains. So one of the areas that international trade suffered was the breaking down of the supply chains. So you had production centers not being matched by the consumption centers. So all these are now up for review, and every country around the world will have a better opportunity of participating. And we are very grateful that India and Africa are taking these first initiatives of talking around this, and more so that this is led by the various chambers to ensure that it's happening. So we're very, very optimistic that trade policy will come back very strongly and all countries will participate on an equal footing.
Now, Roberto, if I come back to you. Now, ABN runs CNBC Africa, Forbes Africa, CNBCAfrica.com. How has the company reacted to COVID-19 and what's been your strategy in response?
Chris, like all media companies, we've had to navigate the challenges of a rapidly evolving industry further disrupted by COVID-19. So our focus remains on using this crisis as an opportunity to catalyze change by leveraging our strengths for the future, both as a conventional broadcaster and as a digital media company. So our long-term strategic plan will continue to provide our clients and our viewers with sort of the engaging and this thought-provoking content through innovative digital and broadcasting solutions. We have had to become very innovative in our product offering since the start of the coronavirus. And we had to be very quick to market with this innovation. So at the start of the lockdown, we launched our webinar series, which has proven to be very successful. And we believe that we have become the go-to media platform, particularly during this crisis when communication with your stakeholders is key. So we have also recently just come out of hosting a first of its kind virtual Pan-African summit, which was the Future of Work. Which had attracted a global audience of more than 2,000 attendees from over 100 countries, and the event was simultaneously broadcast to over 16 million households across sub-Saharan Africa and on all our platforms. So with the countries going into level 1 now in the event business and the event industry opening up, we're going to be looking at sort of doing more of the hybrid model for our premier events, for example, the All Africa Business Leaders Awards, which is in its 10th year. And we're going to be making some announcement on that shortly. And basically what it means is that we will book a small venue, have a few guests, and the rest will join online. We believe that this is going to be the future, which obviously will have to be the sort of mindset change for most, but this is also the way for us to start giving back to some of our service providers, particularly in this events industry, and see how we can start just sort of re-energizing that industry as well, because that industry has just been so hard hit because of the crisis.
Now I can come back to you now, Mr. Poda. I mean, just you represent some of the powerful players in industry and commerce in India. What sort of opportunities are they seeing on the African continent?
Sorry, could you repeat the question? I apologize.
Sorry, some of your members, what opportunities are they seeing on the African continent?
So as Roberta said, in India and Africa have been very close allies for centuries. Africa is a land of opportunities. It's rich in manpower, natural resources, metal, agricultural products, and so on. And now with the African Union the Union signing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, this will create a huge market for the world, for 1.2 billion people, for goods and services. Together, India and Africa represent 2.5 billion people and a GDP of 5.5 trillion dollars. So with that, our memberships are very diverse. They have from small to large scale, and they are very excited about working with Africa and being with. We have more than 400 of our own members who are interested in Africa, and these are large and small scale companies. So there's a lot of interest to work with Africa.
I'll just go back to you, Sam Bembe. I mean, how would you describe India's business relationships with sub-Saharan Africa and the economies of?
Chris, I think the prospects are really exciting, as Mr. Pora has indicated, in terms of sheer numbers, the volumes of the markets, and the production basis that we have. Just to illustrate, the trade started quite late. In 2001, India trade in Africa was estimated between 5 and 7 billion. By 2017, that has gone beyond $60 billion. And it was anticipated that it will go over 100 billion in a short space of time. Then we have to do a reset after the COVID-19. But I think besides all the impediments towards trade, this includes the infrastructure just for transport and logistics. It's a serious constraint between the two countries. And also the access to trade finance, because all goods that needs to move between the two continents, basically, they have to be financed. And we still have areas where trade finance is not readily available. And the infrastructure that is needed just for ease of business is still lagging behind. But besides those constraints, the trade volumes and the values have increased significantly. So we believe that, and this, as I said before, that the renewal of the policy, of the trade policy, will ensure that there's fixed investment to supplement all the weaknesses that I've pointed out. So it wouldn't be unthinkable to say probably in the next coming 10 years, we might see trade of over $500 billion between the two continents.
And if I could come back to you now, Mr. Poda, I mean, can you give us any idea of the sectors you think that Indian business and commerce might be looking at in Africa?
So IMC has a diverse membership from large to small scale. And as I was saying, we have more than 350 countries who are interested. So the major interest is in the pharmaceutical sector. But we do have very large Indian giants like Reliance, Tata, Infosys, Bajaj among our membership. And so there's a variety of interests. But I think some of the major sectors which are of interest to Indian businessmen would be infrastructure, power, healthcare, IT, oil and gas, digital, finance, and education. These were the sectors which we thought would be of most interest to Indian businessmen.
Okay, and I just have one last question for Roberta. You say this is going to be a virtual event. Are there any hopes to host a physical event with the IMC once the COVID days are hopefully behind us?
Well, Chris, the aim of this is we also intend to bring very high-level speakers, to this event, and if all goes according to plan, we're already planning for the next forum, which is going to be around February, March of 2021. And if sort of the economies open and if the country's sort of travel restrictions are lifted, we definitely believe that a proper physical event will be possible next year, obviously hosted here in South Africa, in Johannesburg. So there's definitely that possibility. But as I mentioned earlier on, maybe the future could be in a sort of a hybrid event as well, which is also something that we would definitely be looking at. So some people could be at an event in Johannesburg and the rest will join virtually. There's definitely a possibility of that as well.
Well, thank you very much indeed to my guests here on the CNBC Africa Special, Rajiv Poddar, the President of IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Roberta Naika, the Managing Director of the ABN Group, and Sam Bembe, Non-Executive Director of the ABN Group. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for on the CNBC Africa Special. From me, Chris Bishop in the studio, it's goodbye.